This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, April 30th, 2023, the final day of April as we roll into May, and I hope all of you are doing well. It is, it's an interesting time in wrestling, right? It is, because we're post-Mania. We've got Backlash on the horizon in 1 week, a little less than a week, 6 days as I record this. And we had just had 50% of the draft. Now, by the time you guys hear this, either the draft is being conducted or about to be conducted, or it's already been done. And so we will know the full results of the draft. But on SmackDown, we got some big time drafting moves, and that's something we're going to discuss tonight and heavily focus on SmackDown and a little bit on Raw. But since the draft happened on SmackDown, I mean, that's kind of all. It's the talk of the town, as it should be. And I know that there's a WWE tweet going out about how they're already, already they can't help themselves but allow certain people to cross brand at any time that they want. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I would like to first thank everybody for listening. If you haven't joined us before, well, welcome. And you can go ad free if you hear ads throughout the show. You can go ad-free at patreon.com/WWE Podcast, or you can go join us on Apple Podcast. And the reason that's important is if you don't want to go outside the Apple Podcast app, which I know the majority of you listen on, you can click on the free trial. That is 7 days for free. And then it's only $2.99 a month after that. So if you want to join us there and get everything ad-free right on your Apple Podcast app, you can do that there, or wwepodcast.com. All right, well, first, I'd like to welcome some brand new patrons to the show, and that is Lachlan H. Thank you for joining me here on the WWE Podcast, and I really appreciate it. You can, and Dakota, I think, I don't know if I already said Dakota, but if I didn't, Dakota, welcome to the show. Welcome to Ad Free. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll be posting a new After Dark that'll be going up. I don't know, probably maybe later tonight or tomorrow. In the next 24 hours, I'll be doing a After Dark, and this one will be focused on time, why I don't think it exists, the argument for it, and are we living in a simulation? So yeah, that's a heck of a conundrum, isn't it? So again, very off-brand, off-topic things, but that's what After Dark is for. And again, it's a not for the kids show, very R-rated, very much so. So if you'd like to join us on that side of things, you can join us on the Patreon side, but you have to be on the SmackDown tier or higher to get that exclusive podcast. So, all right. So the draft, 50% of it has been conducted. Okay. We saw some NXT call-ups, mainly on the women's side of things. And it's significant as the women's champion has come over. There was a tag team that came over as well, and but before we even get there, I want to discuss this tweet because people have been asking me, people have been tweeting at me and texting me, "Hey, did you see the WWE tweet where they are already violating their own rules? That the draft hasn't even officially taken effect, and all of a sudden." They are, they're violating the rules. And this tweet that WWE put out, when was it? On the 29th. So last night, they put this out. As announced on SmackDown Lowdown, the following superstars have been declared free agents and can appear on Raw and SmackDown. And those individuals are, figure this out, Ali, Ziggler, Von Wagner, and Omos. So 4 people have been drafted in no man's land, meaning they can go anywhere. Now, I have mixed feelings on this. Some of you feel like I'm going to go off the wall on this, and that, see, they couldn't even last 1 week. They didn't even get the draft implemented, and they already failed. Well, I'm going to argue both sides of this. So the argument for this, and not losing my mind, is I appreciate them telling us ahead of time they're free agents. If they're free agents, then we can't get mad when they show up on either brand. Like they can't. How can we get mad if they show up on either brand? Because they've told us before the draft was implemented, which is key, that they are not on brand exclusive. So that's a good thing, because they aren't violating the rules if they told us ahead of time that they can be on either show. So that's a good thing, right? Instead of them being drafted to SmackDown or Raw, and then all of a sudden they show up on the other opposite show. That is what I have the biggest problem with. When they just come over with no explanation, or there's no security, or no one cares, they're just there. That is the problem I have with the whole draft, and then not being able to follow the rules. So as soon as they do that, once they start doing that crap, where somebody is being drafted, right? Like, we have Imperium on now drafted to Raw, right? If they suddenly appeared on SmackDown in a month, just out of convenience for a particular story going on SmackDown, and no one cares, or even if they do care, well, then the draft is still violated, and what the hell are we doing? That's the problem. But if you're telling me ahead of time that 4 individuals are free agents, well, then I can't get mad, because you're not violating rules that you put in place. So that's the gentle side of me. The other side of this is like, well, okay, yeah, you're not violating the rules, and I appreciate that. But how exactly did these guys get the ability to float between brands? Like, what? They're not exactly, legend contract individuals, right? Like, they're not exactly legends in the business. Now, Ziggler has a lot of longevity. We all know the accolades that other wrestlers have given him, and how, he's the second coming of Shawn Michaels, and how he's the best worker, and he's so underrated, and we've heard it all, right? So Ziggler has the most seniority, and he is really good in the ring. That's no news to anybody. But again, he loses 86% of his matches. Ali can't figure out who the hell he is. Von Wagner is an unproven asset, and Omos is just a spectacle. He's just kind of a big man that WWE feels they need to float between brands. Now, again, I don't know how Ali, Ziggler, and Von Wagner were declared free agents. They didn't explain this in the tweet. They just told us, and we're supposed to accept it at face value, that Ali, Ziggler, and Von Wagner are all free agents. So we don't know how this happened. Omos at least has an agent or somebody working for him in MVP. So, okay, MVP, you could see kind of being able to negotiate a contract like this for Omos. Makes sense. Okay, so that is a little bit frustrating. Like, how exactly did the 3 out of the 4 land this? But then you step back and you look at these guys, right? You look at these guys and you're thinking, why would WWE do this? They're not high-profile names. They're not household names. They don't carry a lot of weight. I mean, let's be honest. Why would they do this? Why? Usually you hear the free agents are big names, right? Like John Cena, whoever, Undertaker when he was doing part-time. Those are the guys that wouldn't be included in the draft, or they'd be declared free agents and not eligible for the draft, right? Like the big, big, big names. So when you look at this, you're like, why? Well, what do these 3 out of 4 men, anyway, have in common? They're all really good in the ring. They can make anybody look good. And they're in-house enhancement talent. So when you have guys like Ali, Ziggler, and Von Wagner, who are really good in the ring, especially Ziggler and Ali, while they never really have an important storyline going on with themselves, they're usually used to help elevate talent that are on an actual trajectory to a championship, right? They're the gatekeepers. They're the ones that anyone can work with and make look good. So that's why they have them on either brand, because as stories need them to be there, they will be there to help whatever talent they're actually going to push get over and have a good match and look good. It's exactly why they're here. So I also can't fault WWE for doing this. While they didn't give us an explanation as to why these 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 are, well, other than Omos with MVP, why exactly they're awarded this, I understand from a business perspective why they were. And we'll never get an explanation why Ziggler, Von Wagner, and Ali were awarded this free agency. But I don't think it's really going to be something that WWE fans are, going to lose their minds if they don't get an explanation. I'm not either, because I totally get why. They're really good in the ring, as I said. They will help out whatever talent they're trying to get over at that moment. They can plug and play them anywhere. That is why. So, and also on top of that, not just the reasons I just mentioned, but also they probably didn't want to commit them to a brand when they know they're not going to have a whole lot for them to do. So they're the jack of all trades on top of it. You can do a little bit of a mini push with them or have them do some high spots, fun spots, get their ass kicked to make the opponent look good. That's why they're there. So I wanted to address that up front. While many of you thought I was going to lose my mind, I actually err on the side of agreeing with this. Like, while I argued a little bit of both sides here, if I was to choose whether to do this or not, I would do this. I totally understand it. And as far as Omos goes, of course, he's not the same wrestler as Ziggler, Ali, and Wagner, but he's a showcase spectacle, right? He's a guy that you want to be able to have on either brand, because while you have big men on both brands, you could have him go face-to-face with Roman Reigns, or you could have him go face-to-face with Brock Lesnar again, right? You mean there's things you could do with Omos on both shows, so they allowed him, in order to get work and to get better and to be able to have that massive giant of a dude that could appear on either show. I get why they're doing it with Omos too. So I actually, while I don't love it, I understand it, and I'm not going to lose my mind over it. So I want to address that up front because many of you asked me about what I thought about that, and that's what I think. All right, now as far as the rest of SmackDown went, I again, if you want to listen to a great review, Michael Ritter and John did a great job of, as always, every week covering that show. They do an excellent job every single week, and this week was no exception. But let's look at some of the draft picks, because that's really why we're here, right? The draft picks. While other things happen on SmackDown, and we will absolutely talk about it, namely the main event. We'll get there. So here is the draft in its entirety, as far as the some of the massive moves. So we have the Bloodline, but namely Solo and Roman, who are being branded as a pair with Paul Heyman. They started on SmackDown and they got drafted to SmackDown. Makes total sense. I had thought that they would keep them on SmackDown. It's a great home. Fox probably advocated for them. Their ratings draws. And by the way, when was the last time we saw Roman Reigns? It's been like, we're coming up on a month, right? Boy, he's got a beautiful schedule. Good for him. But I got to say, hey, with this much time off and this much time between defending his championship, I mean, I could go on a multi-100-day run as champion, right? Because you have so much time in between each appearance, in between each defense. I mean, his number is inflated, because there has been no champion that has gone this long with this much gap in between appearances and defenses. So, sure, he's going to crack 1,000 days and likely a lot more. I actually believe, by the way, guys, I think he's going to WrestleMania 40 as champion. I'm not super confident, but the more and more I look at things, I think it's WrestleMania 40, guys, that he loses it. That said, hey, I'm just saying, his number is, if you were to shave it down to like a normal individual who is there every week, or at least 3 out of 4 weeks, I mean, that run would be like 500 days, not 900, because of how much time he has accumulated sitting at home. And good for him. I'm not crapping on him for it. It's just reality. Okay, but the Bloodline were drafted number 1, as they totally should have been. Cody Rhodes was drafted number 2. He was on Raw before. He's on Raw now. I think he's a great fit on Raw. He is an anchor on Raw. Already an anchor on Raw. He feels like a big star. I mean, he came in, and I still don't like his babyface character a whole lot. I still, for the reasons I've mentioned many times before. But I can't deny his ability in the ring. His promo ability, for the most part, has been very good. And he's getting all the crowd support you could hope and dream for at this point. and the crowd hasn't turned on him a lick. And I'm a bit shocked, but good for him and good for Raw and an absolute number 2 pick for sure. All right. Here's where things get a little bit more fun. Belair was on Raw and she got drafted to SmackDown. So Belair on SmackDown, there has to be an equal and opposite reaction here, right? I mean, Rhea Ripley has to go to Raw. I mean, she just has to. There's no other option. So with Bianca Belair going to SmackDown, Rhea Ripley's going to go to Raw, and she will. And I love Michael Cole just being perplexed about, well, what are they going to do? Belair has the Raw Women's Championship. Cole, you've been here 30 years, and you've seen a dozen drafts. What the hell do you think they're going to do? I mean, what? I mean, come on. Of course, they're switching championships. So Belair will be the SmackDown Women's Champion. Rhea will be the Raw Women's Champion. That's it. So, and actually, here's my early prediction too. I think those two are going through SummerSlam as champions. I actually think both of them could make it to WrestleMania 40 as champion and face each other in a unification match. Just one thought. All right. Here's another pick. Not my favorite. The Street Profits went from Raw to SmackDown, so Street Profits now, starting on the week after Backlash, are going to SmackDown, and I'm more against this than not, only for the fact that the Street Profits are, like, I'm kind of done with the Street Profits. We've seen, it seems as if all they have to offer, we've seen. We've seen the ups and the downs, and there's been more downs than ups, and we know that Montez Ford is the breakout star. And that's not to say Angelo Dawkins can't have a nice career or surprise us all and he's the star. But right now, it seems, by all accounts, Montez Ford is the breakout star that's being held back by being in a tag team. However, with them on SmackDown, they could have some really good matches with the Usos if they get drafted to SmackDown, assuming they will. I mean, I can't see the Usos being drafted to Raw, okay? I just can't. But because then it would take out all the fun of what does Roman do about the Usos and them dedicating this match to Roman and losing and all that. The storyline won't be able to continue the way it needs to. So the Usos are 1,000% staying on SmackDown, which means the Street Profits will have someone to work with and work with in quality matches, for a month or 2 months or more. That said, this group needs to break up. I mean, please. All right. Now, the next move is a big one. Huge. Imperium, all of Imperium, Gunther, Giovanni Vinci, and Ludwig Kaiser move from SmackDown to Raw. So that means the Intercontinental Championship is moving to Raw, which means, just like the Women's Championships, there's an equal and opposite reaction here. You can bet your bottom dollar that Austin Theory is going from Raw to SmackDown. That is going to be a move that I think is going to be expected, predictable, but the right one. You can't have the U.S. and Intercontinental on the same show. And I think it'll be a nice refresh for Austin Theory, who has been kind of cold after beating John Cena at WrestleMania, and he needs a pick-me-up. He needs a fresh coat of paint. He needs new opponents. He just needs a new environment. And I think he'll get that. He will get that on SmackDown. But Imperium going to Raw, I think is a nice change. That said, I'm a bit sad that Gunther's going to be on Raw because I really felt he was like the number 2 face on SmackDown. SmackDown won't crumble. It'll do fine. Someone will pick that spot up, but he fitted so nicely, really nicely. And Gunther was, I mean, he is a future legend. I really, and I'm not saying that lightly. I don't say that a lot. I don't know if I've ever said that about up and coming stars anyway, that Imperium's Gunther is a future Hall of Famer. I truly believe that. All right. Oh, by the way, I know a lot of people are angry about teams and tag teams not being split up. I could argue both ways. I understand that the draft provides that unpredictability, and we didn't get any of that on SmackDown. And I don't think Raw will be any different. They're kind of all being sent as units. But you know what? I'd rather have that and then have a natural story play out with teams or factions splitting up in a more storyline based way instead of just, oh, well, it's cut and dry. We broke up because of the draft. That's a boring conclusion to a split up, is it not? I understand, like, especially Street Profits. Most of us thought, hey, Montez Ford's time, right? I get it. But isn't the split part of the fun? Some of the time, not all the time, but some of the time. So when there's a story to tell with a split, you don't do it with a anticlimactic draft being the culprit behind it. It's got to be somebody stabbing each other in the back, or there's got to be some kind of jealousy or whatever. You can't get that if you split them up with the draft. Now, that doesn't mean the draft can't ever split somebody up, a team or faction up, because it should, just by pure odds. But here's the other thing. We weren't told how this draft was done. We just had various legends come out and announce round 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it was fun. It was fun seeing HBK and JBL and the RVD out of nowhere and Holla Holla Holla, right? I mean, all that. Teddy Long, God, Teddy Long is just so fun to watch. I would love Teddy Long back as GM. He's just a blast. But they weren't told, like, well, who's making these picks? Who's made behind the scenes? Who's doing this? You know, like, and we probably won't ever get that. It's just throw out a few legends. People won't care. Here's round 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fine, whatever, right? Like, we weren't ever told the format to begin with. I feel like WWE is just going, well, let's just not even put our time into telling fans how it's done. Let's just give them results and then we'll move on and they'll forget about it. I will accept that because people just want to see the rosters shaken up, new talent introduced, new rivalries, and they'll forget about, well, how was the draft conducted? Let's have a conversation. Most people don't give a damn, so I can get it, and we won't get an explanation. So, all right. But it was cool seeing the legends come out and announce it. Shawn Michaels getting a nice response. RVD, the crowd loved him. But, all right. Let's see what else happened here on the draft. Again, I'm not going to go through every single result because it would just take too much time and other things happen on SmackDown, but let's talk about the big ones here. Edge moving from Raw to SmackDown. I'm surprised they made Edge a part of this, given that he is kind of he's a part-timer, and I think he said it on Impulsive's podcast, Logan Paul rather. It's tough when you have you know your first and last name are two first names. It's difficult, right? But Logan Paul had Edge on his podcast, and Edge said he thinks he has a year left. Meaning John Cena. I think it ends with John Cena at WrestleMania 40. That's my hope. That's my opinion. I really, really do think that based on Edge and what he said on the show, I don't think he was trying to play any games. He said he has maybe a year left at best. So, guys, enjoy Edge as much as we may make fun and get frustrated with his constant returns that he does, and at least number 111 new opponent when he comes back, whoever that may be. It's not going to be anybody from the Judgment Day, God willing. But you also have to look at this and go, man, we have so little time left with Edge. Let's enjoy it, okay? Just like The Undertaker. I think a lot of times as fans, we just kind of take things for granted, or we complain about legends that are still hanging around, and but then when they're gone, you're like, man, that'd be so cool if they came back just for one more match. Right? I mean, Undertaker's an exception because I think he, at this point, especially towards the last few years of his career, I think we were all more concerned about his health during matches than the actual, match itself. But with Edge, I'm telling you, enjoy it. There's not a lot of time left. He said it himself. So that said, though, he goes to SmackDown. The interesting pick there, because I'm thinking, well, he could, I guess, face Roman Reigns again, or I don't know. He's probably going to square up with Solo Sikoa maybe, but we've already seen Roman Reigns and Edge. We've seen it. It happened at WrestleMania 37. We've seen it. Great match with Daniel Bryan. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's been 2 years. Maybe there's some argument to be made. But him going to SmackDown is a big move. Now, Matt Riddle staying on Raw is, I think, the right move too. Matt Riddle on Raw. You'd imagine Randy Orton is, we keep saying this, it's been a year now, that he's somewhat close. Somewhat. We keep hearing yes, then no, then yes, then no. But at some point, RK Bro is going to be reunited, and Randy Orton, I would imagine, is on his way back to reunite with Riddle and then probably turn his back on him. But Riddle on Raw, it makes sense. I have no problem there. Bobby Lashley going from Raw to SmackDown. Again, I'm thinking about potential future opponents for Reigns. Lashley, Roman, fun. Haven't had it yet. What about if what if we got the Hurt Business reuniting to face off against the Bloodline? Now, we all know Roman Reigns would win that, but still fun. Still fun new, right? All right, another big move here. Drew McIntyre going from SmackDown to Raw. So now on Raw, just to reiterate, we have Cody Rhodes, Becky Lynch, Imperium, Riddle, and McIntyre so far. Now the OC. Yeah, they still exist. Raw to SmackDown. So the OC are now part of SmackDown, and they came out this past week too, and we'll get to that. But interesting that they're on SmackDown. It's good to see AJ Styles again. I thought he got lost. I was like, you still work here? I forgot. And I think we all forgot how good AJ Styles is. And the thing is, though, you take AJ Styles out, and the crowd doesn't react a lick to Luke Gallows or Carl Anderson or Michin. I mean, I'm sorry, they just don't. AJ Styles is the heartbeat, the soul of that group. And even with AJ, they don't react the way that they probably should, given the chemistry with all four of these individuals, and especially the legacy that all four, especially three of them anyway, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and AJ, have with New Japan and everything else. It's, I don't know. The Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows just never, ever felt like they ever got over in WWE, and it still doesn't feel that way. They're just there. Right? They're just the cronies for AJ. They've felt that way forever, and they haven't moved forward. All right, maybe they can change it. I hope they do. Because AJ could have one more good run in him, I think. The Miz moves from Raw to Raw. So The Miz stays on Raw. The Miz is a staple on Raw. And what he showed this past week, or was it last week, when he beat down Seth Rollins, and they had a really good match, man, that was a surprising move from The Miz, and showed you he can still... he has good matches in him. It's there. But, all right. Then we got Damage Control going from Raw to SmackDown. So Damage Control now a part of the Blue brand. And Wade Barrett called it one of the biggest moves in the history of the draft. Wade Barrett says some stupid crap, okay? I like him generally as a commentator. I think he's good, just good. He's not irritating to listen to, but sometimes he says things that are just so egregious and beyond any comprehension that you can't even, like, even if you transplanted your brain, it's hard to comprehend and accept. Damage Control is a big move. What? No, it's not, because number one, people don't want to see this group anymore. They've been ice cold for a year. And it's not a big move at all, because no one in there is a star other than Bayley, who has cooled off also considerably. So the faster this group can break up, the better. That's it. All right. Shinsuke is now a part of Monday Night Raw. That's fun. I have no problem there. I think he'll be in the upper mid card, living there for a while, maybe occasionally touching the main event. He'll probably be involved in one of the or if there's a tournament for the World Heavyweight Championship, he'll probably be a part of it, but definitely not the showcase star. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn from NXT are now part of SmackDown. And for those wondering, they are the SmackDown. The NXT Women's Tag Team Champions are going to SmackDown, as well as the NXT Women's Champion, Indy Hartwell, going to Raw. So the NXT Women's Champion going to Raw, and the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions going to SmackDown. There's your injection of new talent. I think that's a big deal, because both brands could use a little bit of new blood, new faces in the division. So no problem there. And then some supplemental picks, if you didn't hear it. And again, I'm not going to break down every one of these. I'll just tell you. Viking Raiders go to Raw. Dexter Lumis, Candice LeRae, Maximum Male Models, Zoe Stark, JD McDonough, Apollo Crews, Natalia, and Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. All those names go to Raw. And then we get Hit Row. Yeah, they're still employed. probably just wait. I mean, WWE is probably just waiting out their contracts. So it's Ashanti the Adonis, B-Fab, and Flop Dollar going to SmackDown, as well as Lacey Evans staying on SmackDown. Those are your supplemental picks for the first half of the draft. Now, of course, we have the second half of the draft coming up Monday night, and there's a lot of talent still out there, including Seth Rollins, okay, Charlotte, lots of big talent, just to name a couple. So certainly there are some big moves to be made. If Seth Rollins stays on Raw, I will be floored. So that I think is going to be the headline move, if you ask me, is Seth Rollins goes to SmackDown. And I know that some of you are saying, no, he'll have to be the World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, I get it. But what about the program with Roman Reigns? You can't tell me that's not a program waiting in the wings. Now, the problem with this is, well, he's not going to beat Roman. I wouldn't be so sure. I've said, along with others that have been brought on the show, that Seth Rollins is one of the most believable guys to beat Roman Reigns on the entire roster. I think he's got the history. Roman Reigns has yet to beat Seth Rollins, especially in a title match. And there's just a lot of story left to tell with Roman and Seth Rollins. So that's a little bit of my own thoughts. And again, I know that some of you out there are going to say, well, but he should be Raw, the World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, he should be. Okay. I mean, absolutely. He if they keep him on Raw, they should make him champion. Yes. All right. Let's see. What else? Let's get to actually SmackDown. Let's talk about SmackDown. I went through the entire draft here, but let's talk a little bit about what actually happened on SmackDown. Let's get to the main event here. I just want to talk about the main event. Y'all knew, based on the fact that they were setting us up for the main event and the story of what is Roman going to do, because they've dedicated the match. The Usos dedicated this match to Roman. You know, they said that this is when they bring the gold back home, and they're dedicating this to Roman, our tribal chief, we the ones, you the twos, yeah, all this. And then you're thinking, well, what are they going to do? What's Roman going to do if they lose? And that has been the story. So if they were to win tonight, it would have made negative sense. Like not even like a 5% of not even like 5% of the argument to keep the belts or put the belts on the Usos would have made sense. Like none of it would have made sense. Zero. You would have cut the story cold. The Usos are back to being champions. All is well in the bloodline. They're stronger than ever. And then Kevin and Sami do what? And WrestleMania was for what? You know? So I have had no issue with the Usos losing here. It's the way to continue the story. And also the side story of Solo Sikoa, with Paul Heyman always looking at Solo when he says stuff without the Usos seeing who he's looking at. Because it seems as if Solo is being given separate orders unbeknownst to Kevin, or unbeknownst to Jay and Jimmy. And we saw on SmackDown that the implication to Solo was that if they lose, take them out. Excommunicate them from the bloodline. This is their last chance. That's the implication that Paul Heyman gave to us, the viewing audience, when he was looking at Solo, and when Solo was looking at his thumb taped up for the Samoan spike and what he had to do, and what would have happened in the main event had Riddle not come out to attack Solo, to cut him off at the pass. Was he there to attack the Usos? Was he there to help the Usos and then attack them, or not? Like, what? We don't know. I mean, we'll eventually learn the truth, but it seems as if, you know, Solo is the trusted right-hand man of the bloodline, and the Usos right now are on the outs, especially given that they lost again. So now things get really interesting, and you can bet your bottom dollar that the Usos are going to SmackDown. The match itself, though, was really good. I don't think it was nearly as good as the WrestleMania match, but I didn't expect it to be. I think it was about 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, somewhere around there long. And having Kevin and Sami win, of course. Yeah, no problem, right? I mean, they're still over. I have to say, I mean, think about where Sami Zayn was just a month and a half ago. Think about this. Like, Kevin is about the same. Kevin still gets a nice pop. But think about the crowd reaction for Sammy just a month and a half ago, or almost 2 months ago in February at Elimination Chamber. Think about that crowd reaction. Where we were, what we were feeling about Sammy. He could be the one. There's never been a more perfect opportunity. The crowd is super behind him. Everyone is in unison for him. It's the perfect story to tell. And now it's kind of like he gets the solid babyface pop. And we knew this was coming. You're not going to get an iron any hotter than that. It can only get cooler from there, and it has. Now he's not in trouble. He's the Unified Tag Team Champions with Kevin Owens. Like it's good. Life is good, but it could have been great, and they chose good. Just a little bit of a thought I had. So what else happened here? We got LA Knight versus Butch. That was a good match. Fine. I don't think that was a huge deal here, other than the fact that LA Knight got a victory. And probably his most definitive victory since debuting on the roster. Outside of... he had some kind of fluke victory over Rey Mysterio because of Dom's interference, but that's it. So LA Knight finally maybe getting on the winning path and them starting to build LA Knight, because LA Knight is just he's getting such a nice reaction, and he has no business getting this type of reaction with the type of exposure that he's gotten from WWE. So this means there is a star in the making and waiting to be born. So I also love LA Knight's eyes. He's got a really great, intense just stare, and it's something you can't teach. It's great. On top of his look and of course, his body's in great shape, and he's got a nice presence. He looks the part, all that. On the mic, he's really good and believable. He's just a star, man. He's just a star. So, and by the way, where the hell's Bray Wyatt while I'm thinking about it? Is he going to be part of the draft? I mean, I don't know. What are they going to do with Randy and Bray? Supposing they return. I don't know. Maybe they'll draft them when they return. That's probably what'll happen. All right. Let's see here. We also got Montez Ford and Angelo versus Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. So this is, it was fine. The Street Profits got the victory at about 8 minutes after we got the huge frog splash from Ford, and it was fine. It put the Street Profits in a winning direction, but boy, the Street Profits are they're so just robotic. And I'm not saying in the ring they're robotic. In the ring they're very good. I'm saying gimmick-wise, promo-wise, they've got nothing new to offer, and they haven't had anything new for like many, many, many months. So, I mean, they're still hanging on to red Solo Cups, for God's sakes. All right. Zelina Vega versus Sonya Deville with Chelsea Green. It was an okay match, quick, 3 minutes. This was all to put over Zelina Vega, of course, because she's the one who has a title match and Sonya doesn't. But the real kicker here was Rhea Ripley, who attacked Vega from behind after the match and then went for Riptide, but Vega reversed it into a DDT and then ran up the ramp. That was nice. I really thought that was a nice maneuver, and the crowd also was surprised by this. You could hear them going, "Whoa, wait, what?" So that was a nice move. That was a nice touch for Zelina, not getting squashed after the match and showing some heart and showing some skill. And you know what? I appreciate also Michael Cole, who is not trying to frame this as, well, Zelina is likely to beat the Rhea. No. He actually, Michael Cole's framing this as like, it would be an upset of the year if Zelina Vega were to beat Rhea. He said, is it impossible? No. Is it possible? No. And I was like, wait, what? Is it likely? I was like, no, it's possible, right? It's just not likely. But his whole framing was nice, that she is a massive underdog, and I'm glad they're not trying to insult our intelligence there. So, all right. What else have we got here? We got the Usos, as I said, versus, I already talked about that. And of course, the OC. I mean, the OC, I don't know. Here's what was weird. Okay, first of all, I didn't know there was still a thing. The OC, as I said, like I feel nothing for them outside of AJ Styles. They kind of came out of left field, but having them go face to face with the Viking Raiders, who WWE was promoting and doing a nice job building as legit badasses and all this. They were beating people down with their shields and doing great promos and vignettes. And now they're out there getting squashed by the OC. I don't know. It's kind of a killer. And I mean, maybe not a magic killer, although that was delivered. But boy, it kind of really takes the steam out of the Viking Raiders. And undoes a lot of the work that WWE did, and a lot of good work they did, to make them feel like a legitimate, badass, tough, rugged tag team. And now they're just kind of two men playing Vikings. Like it takes a little bit of the steam out of their role, if that makes sense. So, I don't know. I know it was to put the baby faces over and try to help the OC. But look, I think the OC are never going to get over to the level that they feel like they should. Because Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, they just don't come off that interesting. They have a great relationship, real relationship with AJ Styles. That's wonderful. But in the ring and presence on the camera, it doesn't translate. And I'm sorry, it doesn't. They're just there. They're bodies. They're warm bodies. And that's not to disrespect their body of work, because they have a very expansive body of work. And, that's to make it WWE is a big deal in and of itself, but it doesn't translate. And I don't know what it's going to take, because they have a hell of a lot of work to get me to care about Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. I'm sorry. They just do. So anyway, that said, that pretty much rounded out SmackDown. I know that there's some probably nooks and crannies that I didn't really talk about here, but I enjoyed SmackDown overall. As I said, Monday Night Raw this coming Monday is going to be massive, given the draft and what is likely to transpire from the draft. We're being told that this coming week, Bad Bunny, is he going to be there this week, or is it no on SmackDown next week? Bad Bunny will be there, but I'm imagining it's kind of wrap up to Backlash. That's what it's going to be. We got, just as a reminder, let's see, what was it? Oh, we got the Usos and Solo beating the LWO. We got the Street Profits beating the Shelton and Cedric in 2 minutes. We got, what else? Oh, Bianca, Raquel, and Liv beating Damage Control. We got, what else? Chad Gable defeating Mustafa Ali, or rather Mustafa Ali beating Chad Gable. I'm sorry. That was a surprise. And then Cody Rhodes versus Finn Balor. Really good match, but it ended with Cody Rhodes getting the victory in about 11 minutes. I thought that was really good. Rey Mysterio and Damian Priest. That also took place. And I thought that was good too, because that was to build a Bad Bunny return. It's fine. At least, you know what? At least Bad Bunny has shown us he cares about the business. He put in the work. He's much better in the ring than he deserves to be. So good for him. And I'm sure that the match with Damian Priest one-on-one at the Backlash event in Puerto Rico is going to be good. It's surprising it's one-on-one. I thought for sure it'd be a tag team, but it's one-on-one right now. We'll see if that changes on Raw. All right. That does it for me here on the Week in Review. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've got, again, a show for you on the SmackDown and tier and higher side of things for the After Dark. And again, the topics will be time and why I don't think it exists, and are we living in a simulation? Some evidence there. And a lot of this, I do kind of get this from, and I should, I'm not, a scientist, but I had a TikTok I saw from Neil deGrasse Tyson that talked about the simulation argument and why he doesn't think we're in one. It was a pretty compelling argument, so I'll talk about that. And if you want to hear about that, again, subscribe to us on Patreon, SmackDown Tier and Higher. You can get yourself that exclusive podcast that it's available. I publish it about once a week now, and I hope you join us there. You can get a Discord server chat that's all for you guys to just talk wrestling in, and it's exclusive for those on Patreon. And you can also join us on Apple Podcasts, go ad-free, or WWEpodcast.com and go VIP there for all your ad-free content. That's it for me tonight, guys. Thanks so much. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.